Hello and welcome back to CWU Live. It's so good to be back with you. Firstly, we want to thank everyone who has been watching the show on a Thursday on Catch Up and those who have been watching and sharing the shorter clips. The engagement is absolutely amazing. As we have always said, we are a work in progress. And as you will have heard from Chris, our head of comms last week, our new studio starts its building process tomorrow. We can honestly not wait for that. Today, we will have our first ever returning guest. So good we booked him twice and we have a new format. Another first for the trade union movement. That is, CWU reps are helping me host the show. I'm delighted to welcome our Deputy General Secretary Postal, Martin Walsh, and the Branch Secretary of CWU Birmingham and District, Steve Reid, who's going to be asking the questions for this first half. Welcome both.
Hello.
Martin, a little later, we have more brilliant CWU reps who are going to be putting questions to you. But this week, we're going to cover lots of ground. Network changes, relationships with the employer, the USO, and of course, Monday's Panorama episode. I'm sure you've probably watched it. First off, and before Steve starts to grill you, do you want to give us an overview on the recent weeks?
It's been quite busy on network, the USO and Panorama program. So, look, in terms of network, I think we've been working with the company quite well. There is still some work to be done, but for 87% of units, delivery units, their start times don't move more than an hour. And for 382 of them, they don't move more than 15 minutes. We're now at 234 units, which are above basically 60 minutes. And we've agreed that those delivery units can have the meal relief between wave 1 and wave 2, which will bring all of those above 60 down by 15 minutes. We're working with the company to see what else can be done. There's 123 units in Scotland. There's 54 in London, and there's 7 in South East, along with some other units which we're working through. And I was up in Edinburgh meeting the members at the AGM on Sunday and the divisional meeting of all the Scottish reps on Monday. So we've got a plan. I've just come from a meeting with Royal Mail. As soon as I get off here, I've got to draft a letter to Royal Mail, and we're going to have some further discussions. So discussions are ongoing on network.
Amazing. Thanks, Martin. Busy times then. Numbers galore there. Busy man. Steve, I'm going to have a rest now. You can now take over the questions.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Martin, for giving me the opportunity to come here and ask some questions. I'm going to start with some delivery questions. Dave Ward has talked about expanding the role of the postie. With our members at breaking point already, what does this even actually mean?
So expanding the role of postal workers really is trying to grow the work. So if you look at the USO now, and you look at where letters are, years ago, in 2000, we had 20 billion of letters. We're now down to 7 billion. Within 5 years, they're predicting we'll be down to 4 billion. We've got to find other streams of mail and other roles to make sure we got jobs in the future. And part of that is parcels later in the day. Some of that is around, there's 2.3 billion NHS contracts being expanded, and some of these are delivering medication. Some of this is around asking at the doorstep 2 or 3 questions, where basically in Belgium they pay for that. So we've got to look at, if we want to sustain the amount of jobs we have with letters going down, what is the role in the future? It's not going to be overnight, but what's important here, we've got 104,000 delivery workers and processing workers, and we've got to find the jobs of the future.
Okay, thank you. In delivery offices, pressure pot hours are being imposed and duties are being removed without agreement. Have we got an agreement pending on this subject?
Okay, so last year, the company imposed revisions and imposed some start times. We need to make sure we restore quality in all those units. As part of the quality of service agreement, we stopped. Royal Mail were going to introduce a further 250 delivery revisions. We paused them, and there are discussions around a structural revision So a bit more science around that. Those discussions are with Mark Walsh at the moment, and there will be a joint statement.
Yeah, also, do you know, maybe a question for Martin Walsh rather than yourself, can you explain how individual items are going to be weighed as in work items per hour?
Okay, so on weighted items per work hour, we have an in principle disagreement over where it is now. We don't believe in the 1,286 delivery units we should be measuring productivity the same, because some units are multi-floored working, some are outside their postcode, some you can't move a cat in, others are big, and it takes a long time to walk around. We want to make sure that we review productivity and make it much fairer in each delivery unit.
Thank you very much. All right, in mail centres, we still have fixed-term contracts that are being removed while casuals remain in place. How do we turn this around, and what assurances can we offer to these members?
Okay, so on agency, we should all, along with the company, remove agencies. The only agency in this company should be around driving regulations, driving laws. All processing, all delivery agency should be replaced by Royal Mail paid employees. And if they're on fixed term contracts, we should be making them permanent.
Okay, that'd be good news for those members. I know Paul, after myself, is going to talk about supernumeraries. And is there a limit, do you know, on how many job offers our members can refuse if they feel they're unreasonable?
In terms of our agreement, no one has to be compelled to leave the business and apply for job. We've changed that within the joint statement. Look, every company has a support system where basically people haven't got a job in there. What we've got to make sure it's an employee-friendly one, not the one which they imposed last year. And I think we're working with the new Royal Mail management to try and make sure that happens.
Thank you very much. Now, this one's a big one for me because it really does annoy me. We in Birmingham, and I'm sure this is happening all around the country, still have a lot of rogue managers. You know, some of them still have the our business to run mantra. Despite numerous joint statements, how do we actually tackle this when it's still there and our reps and members are facing these rogue managers on a daily basis?
No, I think that's a real good question, Steve. Look, we came out of a bitter dispute. All that management team now has gone. I think the last one leaves this week. There is a new management regime, but we're conscious, whilst we're working with them to move issues on, the field, our members in delivery units, processing, divisional reps haven't seen much of a change. And that's going to take some time, but we're going to continue work to make sure everywhere sees some change in terms of relationships going forward.
Thank you. Hopefully that's sooner rather than later. Sick pay. Do we have an update on the national sick percentage, and are we any closer to having sick pay, full pay restored?
Yeah, my understanding, the sick pay was 6.5% a couple of weeks ago, which has fallen. It's not where the levels we would trigger a review at, but it's reviewed every 6 months. We have to remember that Simon Thompson wrote to the union ceasing the attendance procedure and saying they were going to take steps to introduce statutory sick pay for a full week of the second absence. This isn't an agreement the union wanted to do, but the reality is it was going to get imposed, so we agreed some safeguards, and those safeguards is if it drops below 5.5 for that period, then statutory sick pay gets reversed.
It's over 6% at the minute.
Yeah.
Okay. New entrants. How do we as branches get these workers into the union and help keep them in Royal Mail? Morale is at an all-time low, and it's hard out there to recruit. It really is.
Of course it is. Look, Royal Mail employed 15,000 new entrants last year. We've got the first meeting on the new entrants' terms and conditions tomorrow. I'm going over to Farringdon to meet Royal Mail. We're going to try and improve those terms and conditions. But the important bit here is also to recognise, once our members said they didn't want to be compelled to work Sundays, Royal Mail were always going to introduce an alternative workforce, because Sundays has grown to the third biggest parcels day. And without compelling our members, they had to have an alternative workforce. What our job is now to do is improve the new entrants' terms and conditions to make sure they're much better in terms of contract, and they're not compelled to work every Sunday.
It would be really great if we could get some success stories to help us in the recruitment drive. Final one from me, Martin. Do you have any plans to go around the UK and meet all the reps like the roadshows that have been done in the past? I mean, I've always thought they were very useful.
Yes, but I think our first task, and what I've set myself, and I've set all the executive, all the divisional reps, I want them to get into 3 different workplaces every single month, meeting the members. I was up in Edinburgh. I'm going to York, Leeds. I'm in Plymouth this weekend. We are trying to engage with the members because we need to explain what happened after the dispute, how we're going to move things on, what's going to potentially happen on the USO, all of that engagement, and we're also meeting the reps. In terms of roadshows, we will try and engage with Royal Mail to make sure that we get every local rep released over a period of time to meet them. But that's going to be probably not till the summer, Steve.
Okay, thank you. That's it from me, Martin. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. We need it.
Some brilliant questions there from Steve, and excellent answers from Martin there as well. Now, we have 2 more representatives to put questions to Martin. Before that, though, we cannot have him on without commenting on the Panorama show that aired on BBC One on Monday. Let's take a look at a clip.
On Panorama, the Royal Mail customers demanding to know, where's my post?
I don't think there is any service we're getting round here.
What mail are they holding back that you're not getting?
It isn't good enough, and it is something we should be able to depend on.
More than a quarter of all first-class posts was delivered late by Royal Mail last year.
People do not get their letters and parcels in time, which means that people are not very happy with Royal Mail.
Some posties say at times they're told to prioritise parcels over letters.
And the local managers were saying to us, well, if you can't deliver all of this, then at least deliver the parcels.
One manager says everyone knew what was going on.
I can't see a way in which that was not clear at a really senior probably board level.
What was clear?
That parcels were being prioritised over letters.
So what's the future for our post?
Powerful stuff there. Now, we are joined by Area Processing Representative at South Midlands Mail Centre, Paul Bosworth, and CWU Representative also from South Midlands Mail Centre, Becky Leach. Welcome both. Before I bring you in, first of all, Martin, your reaction to this programme, please.
It's always good to listen to yourself, Omar, and also the questions Paul, like Steve and Becky give. And it's always good to obviously give our view, my view, to the members out there.
But on the Panorama itself, obviously you've watched it probably a couple of times now.
I think its quality of service was appalling last year, and it imposed a number of revisions which still aren't working there. Yeah. Some good work is happening to restore quality service, but it's not happening everywhere. And the 2 units which obviously highlighted, Winsford and Oxford East, that was appalling what we've witnessed, and we need to restore quality service, not only in there, but everywhere.
Well, we've seen a lot of members saying that nothing will change. We had a similar exposure of the employers' antics at the select committee, and there were no repercussions to that. So
I think it's changed. There's a new regime, and we're working. We've got a quality of service statement. Right. And certainly we've had a number of offices on with myself and Royal Mail where we have now got a plan in some units. The same is happening at divisional and rod level, but we've got to make sure these happen quicker. And certainly the 2 units we got highlighted the other day was shocking. And poor family who were waiting 12 days for hospital letters. It's just not acceptable. And we've all got to do more. The union, Royal Mail, got to get into those units and make sure quality service is restored.
One thing that was really prominent in that panorama for me was how there's a prioritisation of parcels over letters, which shouldn't be the case. A couple of posties went on the show anonymously to actually talk about this, but how important is it that these kind of issues are brought to the union by members themselves, and how can that actually help?
Look, I think we've known that for some time. It happened at the select committee. You saw further evidence of postal workers. I think it was one person from Oxford East saying that happens all the time. We've got to make sure we stop that happening across. Letters are still very profitable for Royal Mail and valuable to the customer. They should go out and it shouldn't be left in frames gathering dust whilst people just take parcels. And I do think Martin Seidelberg, I do think Alistair Cochrane, I think they want to restore quality service. Our message to them is we're willing to work with you, and we have been working with you to try and do that, but we've got to make sure that happens in 1,286 delivery units as soon as possible.
Just on that though, when it comes to, and especially the last few weeks as this show has gone on, one of the biggest themes here has been communication. So even on this, whether it's parcels over letters or whatever it might be, any issues, hearing from members about what it is actually bothering them or things that are coming up in the workplace or under practice is valuable currency for the union, because then they can take that and use it to help get a better deal for them. So how much would you say that is important for members, especially following the panorama, whether about this issue or other issues, come forward?
I think come forward, communication's always key. Our members are incredibly loyal employees. They want to give a good service. I was in a delivery office before Christmas, and a lady said to me, like a postal worker, I know I've been told to take parcels, but I know someone's suffering from cancer on this route and there's a letter in there and I'm going to take it. And so people want to do the right thing, and we would encourage people to come forward, but equally I think it is fair to say Royal Mail want to restore quality of service. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but they want to work with us. I think our members don't see that, because they're saying it to myself and others like at high level. What we've got to make sure is every manager is saying that to them, to their local rep, to their employees, that we are going to restore quality service. It's going to take a little bit of time, but Panorama highlighted once again there are real problems with quality service which need to be restored urgently, and the only way you can do that is working together. And retention levels are high. I came into a job at a time when there was a revolving door. People were leaving, and what we've got to make sure is we have a job where people want to stay, and we make sure there's good terms and conditions. People have felt they're treated with dignity and respect, and they want to stay. I've just left Royal Mail because I got elected after 39 years. There's lots of people like me, but I'm not so sure we're going to get another 39-year person who's just started unless we make sure they're treated well, they have a good job, and they feel valued going forward.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Right, time for me to relax a bit. Over to Paul and Becky.
Thank you. Okay, as an area processing representative, Martin, it most probably doesn't come as a big surprise for me to sort of focus initially on mail centre issues. So are you in a position today to give us a full update, if you can, on when will the much anticipated joint statement be signed off involving the next round of realignment activity being planned, and what will be the impact of this? Also, please tell us we won't have a replay of the upset and anxiety caused by the supernumerary fiasco, and I think it would also be really appropriate today to maybe send a personal message to those members that have been in the eye of the storm in terms of the impact of being transferred into the regional redeployment programmes.
Yeah, firstly, hello Paul, hello Becky, nice to have you here and ask us questions. In terms of your point, there was a joint statement agreed by the postal executive last week. There seems to be some issues with that within Royal Mail. We've got a meeting tomorrow. We're going to find out a little bit more. But clearly it takes 12 weeks to do a realignment. And if we don't get that joint statement across the ground by close play this week, there won't be a realignment this side of flights coming out. So I think there's a pressure on Royal Mail. We're hoping to get that across the line tomorrow. Secondly, the supernumerary issue. I mean, that was one of the issues when I came in for my election. I think there's fleet, which I'm meeting on in the morning. We've got a meeting on supernumeraries, if you like, the quality of service problems, and generally trying to improve industrial relations. Supernumeraries, I think, has been one of the worst things which any employer in my time in the job done. And every company has some kind of outplacement where they, if you've got people who haven't necessarily got a job in the future, they ask to retrain them, upskill them, help them with CVs. But what they did to those supernumeraries was about punishing them, putting them outside. There are so many horror stories. And thankfully, when we met the new management team, that was one of the issues we could not totally resolve, but we have moved it on, and we're going to have further discussions. The sad thing is, Paul, though, we've got an agreement, which every union should have, no compulsory redundancies, but we've got a VR package which is now up to 9 months. And my guess is we are going to hit the well on VRs very quickly in some mail centres. So then we're going to have a surplus of staff. If we've got no compulsory redundancies, what do those surplus do? And that's where we're going to have to get in discussions. I think we moved the supernumerary issue on. We're continuing to talk. We're hoping we can really have a system in the future, what most other companies do, which help people who potentially haven't got a job and not punishing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hi, Martin. Great to see you today. What's the CW strategy for recruitment of our non-members based at Royal Mail? Is there recognition from the national level, from the union, that we've got challenges presenting us involving our recruitment with our new entrants when considering they're on reduced terms and conditions? Can we address this, and how are we going to address these terms and conditions?
Yes, I mean, Becky, that's a real important question, because let's be honest, Royal Mail, during the dispute, started recruiting an alternative workforce. They didn't want that workforce to be collectively bargained by this union. They wanted that exclusively as a workforce they could use to bring more work, all the growth in work to that workforce. In the end, the agreement got all of those people will be collectively bargained. We've got to improve. Their contract is very much a gig economy. They can work anywhere at short notice, and we've got to improve that. We've got to improve some of their terms and conditions, which are atrocious, and shouldn't be something that Royal Mail should be have any pride in. Like I say, I think there's a lot of retention and recruitment issues in that, and we should be moving that issue on tomorrow. I think Royal Mail said they employed 15,000 people last year. It'd be interesting how many people stayed. Some of that is linked to contracts. Some of that is linked to, would you want to stay if you worked every Sunday? And also, one of the things we should all recognise is when I came into the job back in 1985, I was on the settled walk when I came in to learn that walk for a period of time. Nowadays, new entrants are put on 3 or 4 different walks over 2 weeks. And it's not surprisingly, some people say, well, I'm going. There's other jobs for me. So I think there's a range of things we could do, but we've got to recruit these people. And, being in the union is still a massive benefit for everyone. And I know the union gets criticised, but our basic pay, our pensions, our everything from Christmas bonus, paid meal leaves, shift payments, everything you can list have been fought for by previous generations. And the union is going to be the only strength against a 3-day USO or tax in the future. So collectively bargaining with 104,000 is always stronger than having 10,000 or 20,000 not in the union.
Okay, moving on to the Panorama programme that was broadcast this week. What is the union's view on the USO? And how do we protect jobs and the service moving forward? How do we also expose Royal Mail's plans for a 3-day service by stealth with their speed of delivery changes?
So let's deal with Panorama programme around quality of service. I think that's a long-term timing coming. Royal Mail imposed revisions which were unworkable. I went into Bridgend during my election and you couldn't move for work. Our posties are incredibly proud people, and they were coming in knowing they couldn't deliver. Sometimes 2 or 3 days work in their bays after a rest day. And whilst we've got an agreement called Quality Service 2.5, and we are generally, Royal Mail's working with us at national level, there's a lot more which can be done. What we can't do is the company can't move to a new universal service based on appalling quality. We've got to restore that. It's meant to be 93.5 next day. I think Royal Mail's about 82, 83 now. So there's a lot more work to be done. We're willing to work with the company. In terms of the USO, and I think this is the debate, I would say we've got to really convince the company. I'm a great believer that we should move to a Monday to Friday letters, parcels service with Saturday and Sunday as parcels. And the reason I'm saying that is, remember, 20 odd billion letters per year in 2000. We're now down to 7. The estimate is we're going to get to 4 in 5 years. We are spreading less work over 6 days a week, losing jobs across that piece. But we've got to then grow parcels. And where you're saying about a 3-day USO, or where Ofcom was on the 3-day USO, I think we're never going to accept that. And to be fair, Royal Mail don't want a 3-day USO. What I think our concern is Royal Mail wants something called speed of delivery, which we still need to understand fully what that means, because speed of delivery almost seems we're going to improve quality of service, whereas the reality is we believe it's not delivering everything every day. And so we do need to understand the impact on that. We believe that may well be just a heavy and light model, which still isn't something we should support. But what we are all convinced on is the USO currently in its current form is losing 400 million a year. And unless we address that issue, we're not going to sustain the company going forward.
Okay, I'm just going to push back a little, Martin. In terms of the question that focused around protection of jobs, if there is a reduction to the USO, and it seems like the union's not opposed to some adjustments, in terms of future job protection, do you see parcels as the sort of saviour in terms of protection of jobs moving forward? Or do you have a different vision in terms of how we protect jobs?
I think there's a combination. So if you look at the parcels, letters, is dropping, but they're really profitable. So there's only 14% of work which is linked to the USO now, but it's worth 29% of Royal Mail's revenue. Whereas parcels, we've dropped from 40% to 34%, because it's a very competitive. We've got to grow parcels. And if you look at it, 80% of parcels next day are delivered between 6 and 10 in the evening. Delivered. They're basically ordered 6 till 10. A warehouse on average takes 2 hours to get it out. Yet we are trying to deliver that at sort of 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning. That work isn't going to be there. Every other postal carrier is delivering after 6 in the evening. And I know our members will say, well, we don't want to do that. But if you look at letters declining, and you look at what's going to happen with dedicated parcel routes where your large parcels come out of unit, unless we get into that growth area, we will be managing decline over the next 3, 4, 5 years. So we do need to expand on parcels, and we're going to have to try and attract people to grow in that area and deliver in that area, because that will benefit mail centres, that will benefit network, that will benefit RDCs, and that will benefit deliveries.
Thank you.
My next question is about reconnecting the union in the workplace. So can you tell me about what the CWU's reconnection strategy is in the workplace, what it involves, and why you think it's needed in this time?
It's a strategy which I think I think we sold the deal too cold to our members. So if you remember, we had 18 days of strike action, which finished on Christmas Eve. And then we delivered another massive yes vote. But then we went into talks which were embargoed for information. And all of a sudden, we landed on an agreement, and our members all said, where did that come from? Now, there was always going to be change in that agreement. And the reality is, I still think it's the best deal we can get. The alternative was Royal Mail going into administration and imposing change. And that administration would have meant 30,000 job losses, because a government can't bail out a private company using public money, and certainly can't use it on parcels which are competitive, which Amazon, DHL, everyone would have taken the government's call. So I think what we've got to do is get out and explain to the members why that deal was right, what we're trying to do to improve that deal, and what we're doing on the USO, what we're doing on supernumeraries. Everything we're trying to improve now is about reconnecting, because I think, where I've gone, some units are, is that really what happened? And once they know what happened, most people support that direction. It's not for a union to gamble with 30,000 jobs of our members. What was the right thing to call was the agreement, but we didn't go out and sell that deal in the right way.
Okay, so it might be said that there are no easy questions being posed today, Martin, but I'm going to continue that theme in terms of a really, I think, big ticket issue. And the question is really around, is it important for the CWU to remain a standalone independent union in avoiding any move to merge with another national union? And if the answer to that is yes, how will we make this a reality?
I passionately believe the CW should remain a standalone union. I've seen unions get consumed by Unite, GMB, and these are strong unions. I'm not saying no criticism of Unite or GMB, but you take the CMA, when they went into Unite, their voice has weakened because they're now part of a massive organisation.
Sure.
Whereas, if we're honest, our union is made up of two main GPO like unions, the TFS, the telecoms, and the postal. And we can prioritise things to our members in a way. But if we're going to survive, it's like everything, we're going to have to change. And we're looking at change at National Executive. We've agreed change at Postal Executive, Telecoms will have to change. It's got to be selling this building. Branches have got to obviously change as well. It's like everything. Membership will continue to decline and reduce because in BT you've got AI, address interpretation, and in basically Royal Mail you've got letters going to continue to decline. You've got changes with USO, and you've got changes to new technology. Jobs will go, and therefore we're going to have less money come into the union unless we change. And part of this year's restructure is very much around that. We've got to obviously recruit, which comes back to Becky's question around new entrants. We haven't recruited enough new entrants, and we've got to go out and do that. But I do passionately believe the CW should stand alone as an independent, standalone union.
Well, thanks for giving a very clear answer to the question.
My last question to you, Martin, is regarding the reps and the Lord Fortner review. So, was it expected, the Lord Fortner review, to be so favourable in seeing Lord Fortner overturn the vast majority of Royal Mail's original dismissal decisions relating to the national dispute?
No, it wasn't expected. Look, again, I always say this, we had to get an agreement to get those people justice. The only chance we had of getting those people justice was some kind of independent person looking at those cases. In the end, that person, Lord Faulkner, who was King's Counsel, was in Tony Blair's government, decided that Royal Mail had wrongly basically made those decisions in the vast majority of cases. And I think 97% of the cases which went to Lord Faulkner have now got a favourable response. And we're in discussions with the company around some of those issues. We think Royal Mail lowered the bar on during that dispute, and we're working on how we raise that bar. But we also recognise this is a massive achievement for the union. If you look at some of the miners' disputes, they're still battling some of their claims. Wapping, all of those claims are still up in the air. We got a collective agreement which has achieved the opportunity for 97% of those people to come back or take a package. And those people, and I know quite a few of them, have been through hell. And they should be given massive congratulations for the way they've handled themselves during what must have been a real difficult time. And it's pleasing to see some of them back in work, but we also recognise some of them had moved on and they should have got the package which obviously helped them move on.
Thank you.
So, Martin, congratulations in being elected as the new DGSP, which leads me nicely into my final question, which is what do you see as your top priorities in the role of DGSP over the next 12-month period?
That's a very good question. I see, what I've noticed since I've been elected in the last two months, you come in to do one thing and you end up doing 10 other things. And what the two or three issues which I think we've got to work on. One is the future of the USO, because and how we can expand the role of postal workers, how we can capture growth, because only by doing that will we have a sustainable Royal Mail. Two, we've got to have a pay strategy, which also means pay rise in April isn't going to be well received, 2%, let's be honest, but it was part of the agreement. What we've got to now look at is what is the next pay strategy, and do we go down to 35 hours? That's our policy, and how do we make sure those new entrants have improved terms and conditions? There's lots going on, but sustaining basically good pay, no compulsory redundancies, and a future for postal workers is clearly what the strategy's got to be going forward.
So lots of issues to keep you busy over the next 12-month period. Martin, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
What brilliant questions. You guys are going to put me out of a job at this rate. Paul, Becky, is there anything else you wanted to ask?
No, again, just to thank Martin for his time today. These sessions sometimes can be a bit challenging and you never know quite what's going to be posed in terms of questions, but thank you very much, Martin.
You're welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much for your time today, Martin.
Thank you, Becky.
Appreciate it, guys. Martin, one more question from me, actually. Network changes. I see you have been in Scotland this week, you were talking about earlier, meeting members and reps over this issue. It is highly emotive. It was a clear part of the recent national agreement, but members have built their whole lives around the current start and finish times. Where are we on this? In as succinct a way as possible. And no, that isn't easy, but if you can.
Yeah, look, I've had a meeting earlier today with Royal Mail over network. We are, aware there's 234 delivery units above 60 minutes. our concentration at this moment in time is trying to reduce that. And I've got some further work I've got to do after this meeting based on network, and we're hoping we can communicate further within the next week over what changes. We've got a little bit of time because planes don't cease until middle of June. So we've got a little bit of time to work through that. The advertised times, which obviously is shown, are indicative times. But legally, Royal Mail had to do that. We're still working on those 234 delivery units above 60 minutes. So we'll have more information over the next week or so.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Martin. Really appreciate it. And thank you for also taking so many questions from so many of us. And thank you to Steve earlier and also Paul and Becky. Really appreciate it. You've turned your invaluable experiences and perspectives into really interesting questions. So thank you once again. Right, that's it for this week's show. Now, next Friday is International Women's Day, and we'll be marking it in the show in our own way. Our Head of Equality, Education and Development, Kate Hudson, will be our main guest. We'll be talking about equality, obviously, but also diversity, sexism and harassment. And we want to hear from you. We understand it may be difficult to come forward about such things, but we need to have this conversation. Over 80% of the CWU's members are male, so there may be issues that affect our female identifying members in many different ways that we may not be aware of, be it about gender, sexuality, or discrimination. So please drop us a video or email, anonymous if you'd like, to let us know, and we'll look to bring it up next week. So as you can see, we've got some exciting stuff in the pipeline for the future, but if there's something or someone you'd like to see, comment below, let us know. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in, and until next week, stick with your union.